Hey, what's up, everybody? It's PDF44. So, I want to do back to back videos because there's been something going on in the NBA that's really got me excited. Um, and rarely do I feel this strongly about a player that doesn't belong on my team, who's not a Laker. Um, but it's just extremely intriguing to me because of how polarizing the pick was in this year's draft. With the number four pick, the Chicago Bulls took a guy by the name of Patrick Williams. And initially, my thought was, are you freaking kidding? Patrick Williams was not supposed to even go in the first eight picks. They could have traded down and got him. And while that is still true in my mind to a degree, I don't feel the same way about Patrick Williams as I did before doing homework on Patrick Williams. Now, I watched a couple of highlights from him here and there. I haven't seen a full Bulls game. I don't think the Bulls are going to be that great of a team this year or anything like that. But they got a kid. They got a real one. Patrick Williams looks like the second coming of Kawhi Leonard. That's exactly what he looks like. He has a huge body. He's ready made for the NBA, and if I'm not mistaken, he's only 20 years of age. Thing about Patrick Williams is he's as equally as good defensively as he is offensively, just like Kawhi Leonard. Pretty much have the same strengths and weaknesses. Thing about Patrick Williams that's really interesting and intriguing is he's a mid-range specialist, like DeMar DeRozan, like C.J. McCollum, LaMarcus Aldridge, real mid-range specialist type guys. Patrick's one of those guys. He's extremely confident shooting the ball from the mid-range 20-foot, 15 feet area. And what I saw in the Atlanta game was an Atlanta team who was beating the Chicago Bulls because the Chicago Bulls are not a very good team. But they had absolutely no answer for what Patrick Williams was doing out there, picking them apart from the mid-range. When you have a guy who can slash the way that he does, is competent from behind three, who's going to get better from three, and lives in the mid-range, he becomes nearly impossible to guard. His strength is it seems like it's balanced well between his upper body and his lower body. He seems like a well-proportioned player who comes at you with next level force and velocity with his legs. When he's pushing at you, he's too strong. That's what I call it. He's like, I think about guys like Julius Randle, LeBron James, Zion Williamson, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Ben Simmons. You know, guys who come at you when they run hard, and you're pushed out of the way. Russell Westbrook, prime D Rose, that type of velocity. It's a little different than speed, because speed is, for me, is more so about what you can do independent of others. What I'm talking about is him pushing people off of him. Like you're on him, bodying him up. He's doing this to you. He's moving you as he moves forward. He's not afraid of contact. That type of strength, coupled with the mid-range ability, coupled with the long arms that he has, his athleticism, which is fire, his defensive prowess, which is his biggest strength. When you look at all the things that he's good at, and then you understand how young he is and how ready-made he is physically, you understand that the Chicago Bulls probably just drafted somebody who's going to be one of their better players, period. Like, of course, you think about Michael Jordan, you think about Scottie Pippen, you think about Derrick Rose, you think about Jerry Sloan. I think Patrick Williams is going to be another one for the Bulls. I really do. I really do. After seeing what I've seen from him, I've added him to almost all of my fantasy teams. And being that they are comfortable giving him 30 minutes a game up until this point and starting him, I think he's a much better bet to have the type of role necessary for him to develop into who he's going to be, more so than a guy like THT from my squad, of whom I think is equally crazy with the upside, but Patrick Williams' situation is just so much more catered for him to have success early on. So when you think about two-way wings, guys who can play multiple positions, 2, 3, and 4 particularly, when you think about guys who defend the ball very well, who you can put on your best player, who can probably have success guarding guys who are bigger than them and smaller than them, and guys who are not going to be bashful offensively as well, there's no ceiling. There's no ceiling at all. Like, when you think about that, how good can a guy like that be? Kevin Durant, Kawhi Leonard, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan. Like, these are the guys that come to mind when I start thinking about two-way players. You know what I mean? Patrick is ahead of the curve in terms of his development offensively than some of those guys were at his age. Like, honestly, Patrick looks more refined than Kawhi did at Patrick's age. At Kawhi and Pat, at that same age, it's scary. It's really scary. And what I'm thinking is, I think Chicago, they did fire Garpax. They brought in a brand new GM, and this was his first move. What a first move. That's all I can say. And I wasn't aware of their situation. I didn't realize they had fired those guys when that draft had taken place. So I didn't know they had I don't follow the Bulls like that. So I didn't know that they had revamped their front office and had done some things that would help themselves. They did something that helped themselves with this kid. So that's what I wanted to get up here and just kind of, say. I remember making a video after the draft, and I came out and said that I thought that was a wacky pick, and regardless of how good the kid was, they could still get him later on. But you got to look at the unique circumstances of this past draft. Most of the players in this draft you have very limited visuals of because of the fact that COVID hit and college players didn't play. So a guy like James Wiseman, you have very little footage of. A guy like Patrick Williams, he started the season on the bench. He averaged 8 points and 6 rebounds. And I pointed that out as a means to discrediting the pick, saying why would they pick a guy in the first round that high who was coming off the bench? But the reality was he was coming off the bench because it was the start of the season. He was a rookie coming into a college year. He wasn't going to stay on the bench. He was playing for Florida State. They weren't going to keep him on the bench. It's just how COVID hit, and they didn't finish their season. He was going to be their best player. And I think that the Chicago Bulls understood that. I think probably a few teams surrounding the Chicago Bulls understood that, and I think that's why Chicago pulled the trigger on him early rather than trying to trade down for him, because I think if they saw what I see, and after doing the late homework on this kid that I've been doing these last 2 days, they had to draft him. I would have drafted him third over Ball. Like, if I knew then what I know now, and you know me, if you guys know me, I'm a Ball fan. I like LaMelo. I like Patrick Moore, man. I like Patrick Moore because as good as LaMelo is at passing the rock, unlike his brother, he is not a defensive dynamo, and he is going to have to grow defensively. He doesn't have the greatest body. He's going to have to get a lot stronger. He doesn't score the ball as fluently as we thought he would. There's going to be a learning curve for him. And I just think the Charlotte Hornets, looking at their team, seeing that they have 2 point guards already, boy, if they could have had Patrick Williams, they would have been a better team if they had Patrick. And that's not the tune that I was singing before. I love LaMelo's game up going forward. I think he's going to be as good as advertised. But this kid, Patrick's going to simply be better. And I'm letting y'all know that right now. It's sort of like Lonzo Ball and Jason Tatum. You knew Tatum was going to be better, but you was going to go with Ball anyway because it's just what we were going to do. It's kind of feel like the same thing all over again. I think Patrick Williams, he can be, he doesn't have the shooting form that Jason Tatum does. That Jason Tatum has next level mechanics shooting the ball. But in terms of him being an impact player defensively like Jason, yeah, he can be. So the Chicago Bulls, I think, picked up a franchise player. I think they picked up their franchise player. I think that he's going to be the best team player on their team, and he's going to be a guy that makes several all-star teams, and I don't think there's a ceiling. Like I said, I don't want to go out the window and say he's going to be MVP, he's going to be quiet and all this, but you can mold him into something really, really special. If he gets the right coaching, gets the right circumstances, get the right playing times, stays injury-free, the things that he does, you cannot teach. His body, you can't work out to get into that shape. It's genetics for that guy. Just like Anthony Edwards. I look at him and Anthony Edwards the same way. They're just next level offensive and defensive. Well, not defensive for Edwards, but offensive and defensive players at next level. And I'll tell you this, it's a toss-up for me. I think if I could do the draft all over again personally, I would take Wiseman first, just because Wiseman's a big player who can shoot the three, score with ease, and he's coming in immediately and making an impact as a 7-footer who can shoot threes. I don't think you can't pass that up. I take him first. Probably take Edwards second. I take Patrick third. I think that's how I would do the draft all over again. So I don't know how you guys feel about that. I didn't do as much homework on this draft as a lot of other people probably did. But now that the season has started, I'm going back and I'm looking at these players, and I'm telling you, it's an underrated draft class. And I think there's about 12 or 13 players within this draft class that are going to be high impact role players, starters, and maybe even stars right away. I'm not talking about later. I'm talking about next week. As these games are being played right now, yeah, it's a bunch of rookies that are really doing it. Wiseman, Okoro, Williams, Halliburton, Avdija, Hayes, Edwards. I mean, these players are already fantasy relevant. If you have a fantasy basketball team, these guys are already guys that you can throw in your lineup right now. So for this to have been a non-draft, people were saying, "Oh, this is one of the worst drafts in a long time." Complete opposite. You have many more high impact players in this draft than you would have found probably in the last 3 drafts. Like, just high impact. Yeah. This is probably one of the better drafts. So that's what I got to say about that. Thank you guys for watching. Keep an eye open for these young players. It's more than that. I just named a few. It's more than that. Think of Devin Vassell. That's another guy in San Antonio. He's going to be a problem. So many others. So keep your eyes open for that. Tyrese Maxey in Philadelphia. So many guys. I love this draft class. So if 5-6 years from now, half the all-star team is full of people from this draft class, I will not be surprised at all. It won't be me, because I'm telling you guys now, it's the truth. Thanks you guys for watching. My name is BDL44. I'm out.